everybody, Jennifer from Scrapping Under the Influence. I am here today with the November Craftology project for Country Craft Creations. The Craftology box is a subscription box that comes out every other month. With that box you get written cut list and pictures of 2 different projects. You get pre-cut chipboards, you get the pattern paper and the embellishments to make both projects, and then there's always a couple of extra projects that are done just kind of as alternatives for that are done by other members of the design team. So Tamra, who owns Country Craft Creations, always does one of the projects, and then she has one of the design team members do one of the other projects, or do the other project. And this is the second time I've done the Craftology, and I'm very excited because we got to do the Echo Park a Gingerbread Christmas. And what I have done is I have made a cookie recipe organizer. So you could use this for recipes, you could use this to organize cards, lots of different things you can do with this one. So we've got a shaker on the front here that I've done a little bit differently, wrapped it a little bit differently than most shakers are traditionally wrapped. But that helps hold this closed, and this does expand because this opens up and you've got all of these wonderful expanding pockets in here that you can fill full of recipes and that sort of thing. We've got a couple of pockets in here for other loose little recipe cards and things. In fact, as I say that, I realize I have cut aparts that were supposed to go in here that I did not put in my pockets there, and I'm not sure where I have set them aside at. Aha, there they are. No, I was missing something. So I've got a couple of the cut aparts from the collections that would sit in here. You could put your recipes in here. You could put pictures. You know, you could include pictures from, you know, maybe you do Christmas cookies every year with the grandkids. Maybe you do, you know, that you've got pictures you want to include. Maybe you've got a set of recipes that you make of cookies and candy and things that you make every Christmas. But that's what all of this is meant to help you organize. So it does stand up completely, so you can easily flip through here and find what you're looking for. I've kept the embellishments to a minimum just because, you know, if it's something that's functional, you don't necessarily want a whole bunch of stuff getting in the way as you're trying to actually use your little organizer here. So the top here is not matted because this is meant to kind of expand with, you know, however many recipes you get in here. If you've got it fairly, you know, not a whole lot, you can pull this a little bit tighter when you close it. If you've got it completely stuffed, you know, you've got that space with this top here because this will flex and kind of let you adjust, you know, when it's closed, how much you've got in there. So ribbon just kind of goes around our shaker to hold this all closed. There you go. It is 6 by 8 with a 2.5-inch base. And there you have it. This would make a great gift. This would be something that could be very useful for you in your own kitchen. So I hope you guys like this and enjoy this, and the tutorial will follow right now. Hello and welcome to the tutorial for my cookie recipe organizer for the November Craftology box for Country Craft Creations. If you have received the Craftology box, you would have had a little package of pre-cut chipboard that we're going to be using to build our base. The 2 lightweight pieces are going to be for our shaker that goes on the front, so you can set these aside for right now. You're going to have 2 pieces that are 6 by 8. One piece, whoops, that is 6 by 2.5. We're going to go ahead and get these back with score tape so we can wrap these. And normally I do this off camera, but I'm going to show you how I do it. So you can watch the train wreck as it happens. No, it's not as bad as I used to be. I've gotten much better in recent years. So I'm going to actually do both pieces on here at the same time. So I have one little strip that's not going to get covered by that, and that's fine. We'll get it with some other tape. Okay. I'm going to stick this back on here because I do actually save my score tape scraps and use them on other projects. So occasionally you'll see on a tutorial where I've got like a whole bunch of backings I'm pulling off of one sheet. That's why, because that's what I'm doing. Okay. I'm going to go ahead, fold this back. I'm going to do it actually this way. So I'm going to line this up on here. And if you want to glue these down onto your cardstock to wrap them, by all means, go right ahead. It just means you're going to have to set your project aside for a few minutes to give it some time to dry. That's why I'm not going to do that. And then I've also got my inside piece that's going to reinforce the inside of our cover. This is 5 7/8 by 6 inches out of craft cardstock. And I'm going to go ahead and, which is the 6-inch side. I'm going to back this completely as well, because when I do put this down, I do want it to cover entirely. And then I'm also going to put my spine piece on here. And get the backing on it as well. I'm going to slice off this little piece over here, and I am going to throw that one away. Okay, so there is our, actually need to trim that up just a tiny bit. Didn't have it lined up quite right, but close enough. All right. And I'm going to do just a little bit of trimming on this one as well, because not quite as even as I would have liked the score tape on there. All right, move that back off to the side for a minute. Okay, so to wrap this for our spine, we need a piece of cardstock that is 8 inches by 5 1/2. I'm going to use my spacers that have gunk on them already, because of course they do. I'm going to use my spacers in my scoreboard to get this lined up and get this put down the way I want it. Get the backing off my score tape. Now, if you have the Craftology box, you should have a printed cut list of the cardstock to build our cookie organizer, recipe organizer, as well as the sizes for the matting. So you should have that handy. So what I would suggest is going through with that and pre-cutting everything, not scoring, just cutting. The scoring occasionally can be a little bit confusing, so it's probably easier if you wait and do the scoring with me, because we will do that on camera. But if you want to save yourself some time, you can go ahead and pre-cut all of your cardstock. The matting, you can wait until you see which papers I use to mat with, unless you're going to go off and do it. Mat it however you choose, in which case you can go ahead and cut those as well, because those measurements are on there as well. Okay, so we're just using our spacers as a guide to give us that 1-inch border around our chipboard. I'm not sure if Tammy's currently sold out on these or not. If she is, she should be getting some more, and they are fabulous. Okay, whoops. Make sure everything's in there where it needs to be. Okay. We'll remove our spacers for a minute. When we go to do our shaker, we will need those again. But we will do our shaker towards the end. So I'm going to move that out of the way. What we're going to do is we're going to bend our cardstock around our chipboard and fold and burnish. We're going to do this on all 3 pieces. Okay. That is not finished down by the fact that it actually popped up. It should not do that. All right. So now we've got all 3 pieces folded and burnished. What we're going to do is we're going to come in here and you're going to cut along those fold lines, and we're going to cut out the corners on all 3 pieces. If you have watched other tutorials of mine or of Tammy's with the Easy Wrap method in the past, you'll know that normally we were leaving this piece, we were doing it across this way and not cutting out that whole square. But we have since found out from people at retreats that you can actually cut that whole thing out. It's still strong enough, and you're just having less bulk when you fold this over, okay? So in case you've seen it the other way and you're wondering why I'm doing it differently, that's why. Okay. So once you get that cut out, you're going to fold over. You're going to miter your corners ever so slightly if you've got anything hanging out over the side. If you don't, then there's nothing that you need to be doing. Trim, but you still want to go through and check all of these, because occasionally you'll have quite a bit hanging over, and sometimes it'll be just fine like that one. Okay. Do the same thing on our 2 cover pieces. I'm going to check my corners, miter where needed. Okay. And one more. And I am using the Craft Artisan cardstock, and if you've ever bought the Craft, it is a little bit different than the rest of the Artisan cardstock. With the Craft, it doesn't have the linen fibers in it like the normal Artisan does, so it is a little bit different, and it does fold just a tiny bit differently. Not bad in any way, it's just a little bit different if you're used to working with the other types of Artisan. So now we're going to go on all 3 pieces. We're going to go around. And if you want to use just glue on this step, you absolutely can. You just will, again, have to let these kind of sit and dry for a few minutes so that everything stays where it's supposed to stay. I do prefer the method with the tape and the glue. It just seems to, it just works for me. But by all means, if you want to do just glue, go right ahead. And when we get to our shaker, we're going to do it a little bit differently than what you have seen me do in the past. And really, it was kind of almost an experiment when I did it, and it worked so well and gives it a really nice finish to it that I think you're going to like it. Let's put it this way, you're not going to see your foam tape, which is what has always bothered me, and I usually fix by running ribbon or twine or something around the outside edges of the shakers to kind of hide it. And with this method, you don't have to do that. So, but like I said, we're going to do that piece very, very last, because you can do it earlier and attach it to your project earlier, and you're still totally able to do your matting and your assembly of the rest of the project, but it is a little bit easier to do the rest of this without the shaker attached. So, and the shaker also helps with our closure. So, all right, so we've got those all taped. What I'm going to do is come around here. I'm going to get the backing off of my tape. And I didn't need tape. Okay, we didn't need tape on 2 of these sides. So I'm going to pull that off really quickly. Apologize for that. Those 2 pieces, you do need it all the way around. The spine, you just need the 2 flaps there. I apologize. Getting ahead of myself here. Getting it like that assembly line mode, and who knows what I'm doing. But fortunately, because I was lazy and didn't burnish these down, we're going to be able to very easily pull this off. Oh my gosh, okay. There we go. All right, so as I was saying, before I screwed that up, we're just pulling our backing off of our score tape on this piece. All right, so let's see if my glue wants to play nice today or not. My bet is not, so we're just going to actually preemptively clean this out, because I've been having glue issues again lately. So all this is just a pipe cleaner, and we are literally just going to stick that into that metal tip, kind of run it around, and that's going to get all of that gunk out of that tip. And we'll put back on our glue. And hopefully this means I don't have to fight with my glue today. I say that. It won't happen. It always has to fight with me. Okay, so we're going to run glue along the edge of the chipboard, and then we're just going to squiggle it in that space in between where our score tape is and the chipboard. Use your bone folder. You're going to push up against the side of the chipboard, over, and then burnish that down. Okay, same thing on the other end. Up, over, and down. Okay, set that piece aside. I'm going to go ahead and pull the backing off of this piece. All right, I like to start on my short side. It really doesn't matter. You can do it either way. And again, up and over. Glue along the chipboard. Squiggle in the open space. Up against the chipboard and over. And then I'll do my long sides. And again, up and over. And up and over. Okay. One more time. Get our backing off. Right. Again, along the chipboard, squiggle, burnish, and burnish. And last side. Okay. All right, so now we're going to take our spine piece. We're going to turn it so the good side's facing up. Take my bone folder and I'm going to burnish along the edge of that chipboard. So we're working that chipboard down over the edge of the cardstock down over the edge of that chipboard so you can see. And this is where not having that little piece that comes down here and attaches helps, because then you can get a much better burnish on this side. Okay. I do that on both sides. Okay. So you can kind of see it. A little hard to see with the craft cardstock here, but you can see that there's a line there now. Okay. So now I'm going to take my score tape again. And I'm going to go to the outside edge. And then I'm going to go about 1/8 of an inch away from where we burnished that cardstock down over the chipboard. You don't want it clear up to the chipboard, because when you fold this over, you'd be able to see it. Okay, so you can see there's that little bit of a gap. That's what you want. Okay, so we're going to start on one side. Oops. So with good sides facing up, we're going to get the backing off of our score tape, and we're going to get glue in this middle section. And then I am going to use my finger. Some people have been using their scoreboard, which is actually a really good idea as well. I use my finger, line that up until I pull it across until I feel it fall off the edge of the chipboard, and then I'm going to push it down. Okay? And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So again, we're going to remove the backing from the score tape. Okay. And again, I'm going to use my fingernail to line this up. Pull it till I feel it fall off the edge. And then down we go. I'm going to turn it over and burnish that down. And then I'm going to burnish and kind of push this chipboard spine down in the center there. Okay? So there's the base for our cover. We've now got our little piece that goes on the inside here to reinforce. Okay. So to put that down, I am going to turn this sideways because then I can better see when I'm lining it up side to side, which actually would be, well, it's actually the way this opens and closes, this actually would be side to side. I'm going to get the backing off of that score tape, and I'm going to just dry fit it. So I'm going to do adhesive side up, make sure I've got it turned the right way, because once this is down, it's down. It's not going anywhere. Okay, get that down, and then we're going to burnish. I am done with this little tool for now. I will put that away. Burnish that down. And then I'm going to take my bone folder and I'm just going to push that into that crease as I fold that up. Okay. Turn it and do the other side. Okay. And there we go. Now, this has the closure that goes up and over the top. So for that closure, we need our scoreboard. You need a piece of cardstock that is 6 inches by 6 3/8. We're going to put the 6 3/8 at the top of our scoreboard. And I'm actually going to erase my writing off of here before we get to scoring anything on here. My prototype was in black and it didn't matter as much, but this one it will. Okay, so we've got 6 3/8 at the top. We're going to score this at 1 inch. Okay, this is our piece that's going to come over in the front. You're going to turn this all the way around. You're going to score at, you're going to start at 7/8 and score, and you're going to score every 1/8 of an inch. So as you do this, the paper is going to want to lift up and slide away and so on and so forth. You just have to hang on to it as you go. And you're just going to score every 1/8 of an inch until you get to your 1 inch score line over here. Okay? And what this is doing is this is going to allow that closure to kind of have a little bit of a bend to it and to, you know, kind of expand with your organizer as you get more things in it. And like I said, this will take a minute to do, so just take your time. Very easy to lose your place, like I keep doing. Okay, so you can just barely see if I get the light just right on here. You can see where all those score marks are. The 1 inch is going to go to the front, so we are actually going to bend this over just a little bit. The 7/8 inch tab is going to go on the back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and just kind of roll this. Not super aggressively, but just enough to kind of train it that it needs to kind of stand up and roll all at the same time. Okay, like so. So all I'm doing is just kind of coming along here and just kind of pushing this down until I get that roll. Okay, so let me, where's my, there it is. Okay, sorry, I had to find a ruler because I'm not sure which is my 1 inch side. Okay, so this is my 1 inch side. So what I'm going to do, actually, I don't need to mark that that's going to be the front. What you need to decide is if you're going to do any kind of corner rounder or anything like that on here, which I am going to do as soon as I figure out where my corner rounder is. There it is. Okay. So I am going to do, I'm going to do this one. Okay. All right. And then at this point, it doesn't matter which side's front, which side's back. We're going to take our 7/8 inch is going to attach on the very back here. Okay, so all I'm going to do is get some glue on here. Line it up side to side because it will be flush side to side. And just put that down on that edge. Okay, so before we mat this piece, we will be attaching our ribbon, but we're going to wait and do that matting and attaching that ribbon after we have finished the outside of this and attached our shaker to the front, because see, this will end up expanding out up to that. Really, if you wanted it to have the potential to expand more, you could make this piece longer. It's entirely up to you. I thought that was going to be more than enough by the time we get the inside of this finished. So before we go any further, we are going to go ahead and put down our matting for the inside here. So let me find my matting. All right. So for my inside matting, I basically cut all of this from one sheet. Okay. What I'm going to do, and it's up to you if you want to do different paper, by all means do different paper. I did use the gingerbread paper. So we're going to mat here and here, and then I'm going to use the back side of whichever I decide not to use there in this center part. You can ink these if you want to. Oh, there's my brownie. I think we will go ahead and ink them since my ink's actually right here. Okay. Okay. So we can go ahead and glue this down. down. And I don't have the matting on this written down in front of me, but it is on your cut list that you will have received with the Craftology. I believe it is 5 7/8 by 7 7/8, but if you do not have the cut list, if you are making this independent of the Craftology kit, then you will want to measure and double check before you cut and mat. Okay, so I'm going to flip this over and we're going to go ahead and do our front and back matting. So this is going to be our back. You do want to keep in mind that when this is finished and closed and standing, if you've got a directional paper, you want to make sure you're putting it on here the way it needs to go. So you wouldn't want this to be upside down. Okay. So to help myself with that, because I'm the queen of putting stuff on upside down, you have no idea. I'm going to lay this like if the project were finished and laying face down, like it would be, just to make sure I'm putting this on here right. Get my glue on here. And we're doing this way just because it will be a little bit easier to mat doing it this way. I mean, you can, honestly, I did my prototype with it already completely done, and it was fine, but just to make it a little bit easier on yourself, you can go ahead and do it now. And again, I believe it's 5 7/8 by 7 7/8 because the the chipboard base is 6 by 8. So for this one, it's going to go on here this way. And those are my two little pieces. They're 5 7/8 by 7/8, and those are going to go on my little tab there after we get the ribbon on it. So for now, we're just going to set them aside. So for the front, I'm using the gingerbread houses. Okay. So we're going to put that down on here. Okay. Put that down. Now, I did not mat this piece, which is where it's basically going to stand. If you want to mat that, you can. It's really not necessary. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is, where'd they go? Our flat pockets. Okay. So we've got two flat pockets that are going to sit inside here. These are 5 3/4 by 2 5/8. One is going here, one of them's going here. Okay, so we're going to go ahead, and all you're going to do on these, you're going to line just a very thin line of glue on 3 sides. And put it down. You're just going to center it up down there. If you want to leave these off, you absolutely can. It's up to you. Okay. And because the way our center thing is going to stand, I do have these matted, or I'm sorry, at the end, so you're sliding stuff in this way. It's up to you. You could do them so that they're in the center section, so when it's closed, you know, they're kind of standing up. I liked it better on the ends. To mat these, I did use the border strip, and instead of separating the two borders, I did leave them attached. And we do need to trim these down to size. So these are 5 3/4, correct? Literally, this is why I have to write it down because I don't remember in like 3 minutes what I did. So it's going to be 5 3/8 by 2.5. So this is 2.5. So I did size these pockets for this border in this configuration. If you wanted it shorter, you would shorten the pockets. If you wanted them to be bigger and didn't want to use this border strip, you would, of course, change that accordingly. So these need to be 5 5/8. Which, look how cute, leaves you one little gingerbread house right there in the middle with a snowflake underneath it. Couldn't have worked out better if I'd wanted it to. So we're going to go ahead and map those as well. And really, this would make a cute card organizer when it's done as well. I mean, how fun would this be with like birthday paper to organize, you know, birthday cards? If you're one that, you know, I used to be better about it and I'm not real good about it now. I used to go through and take, like when I'd have leftovers of a collection kit and make cards. So I had them ready to go. And in recent years, I've gotten lazy and I don't do that anymore. Because, you know, this is what happens. Things get busy and then you don't do that kind of thing anymore. But if you did, I mean, how great would this be to make, you know, a couple of different ones for birthday cards or get well cards or sympathy or whatever, you know, types of cards that you would like to make ahead and just have on hand, where you could just get in your little file and you'd have them all ready to go. So I do have a couple of, so see, we're just going to be able to stick those down in there. These are a couple of the cut aparts that I did set aside to put in our centerpiece if we want to. This is not getting matted. It's going to stay the way it is. If you had a stamp set, which I know somewhere in my piles of stamps, I probably have a stamp set that would complement this perfectly, that I could have stamped all over here before I scored it. I'm not going to get that crazy. Just, it's fine. But because of the way this functions, you're not going to be able to mat this. So just be aware if that bothers you. You could maybe try doing this top piece out of the pattern paper. But I don't know, you know, because this is not, you know, because this is artisan, I know I can do this and it's going to hold up and it's going to look nice. Once it's scored, I don't know that if you did this with the pattern paper, if it may crack as you score it. So just something to think about. If you're not, you know, you don't want to do this just plain, you know, that could be an option, but keep in mind it may crack. So, all right, so this for now is done. We're going to set this aside and we are going to work on our pockets for the inside. So you're going to cut 2 of each pocket. Each pocket has 2 pieces. So these are going to be the backs, the pieces that you have that are 5 3/4 inch wide. You're going to have 6 1/4, 7 1/4, and 8 1/4, 2 of each. These are going to be the back of the pocket. The pieces that are 9 1/2 inches wide, and then we've got 4 1/2, 5 1/2, and 6 1/2. These are the fronts, okay? We're going to do those second. We're going to do these first because the scoring on these is much, much easier, okay? With the 6 1/4 at the top of the scoreboard, we're going to score at 1/2 inch and at 3/4 inch, okay? So again, 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch. 7 1/4, same thing. 7 1/4 at the top of the scoreboard, 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch. Again, 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch. And then 8 1/4 by 5 3/4. One more time, 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch. Again, 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch. Okay, so I'm going to stack these back up in order, clip them back together, and set them aside for right now. For our other pieces, okay, all 6 of these pieces are going to be scored the exact same way. Okay, so with your 9 1/2 at the top of your scoreboard, you are going to score at 3/8, 3/4, 1 1/8, 1 1/2, and 1 7/8. Okay, turn all the way around and do the same thing again. 3/8, 3/4, 1 1/8, 1 1/2, 1 7/8. So that's going to give us our accordion. So this, the accordion pieces, the sides will fold in that mountain valley to do our accordion. This 6 1/4 piece will come, you'll attach those sides to this, you'll have a 1/4 inch gusset at the bottom, and then this little 1/2 inch piece will wrap around the front and attach to the front of this. Since it's all going to get matted, it's not going to matter that you're wrapping it to the front. Okay, so that's kind of our process here. So again, 9 1/2 at the top of the scoreboard, 3/8, 3/4, 1 1/8, 1 1/2, 1 7/8. Turn it all the way around. Again, 3/8, 3/4, 1 1/8, 1 1/2, 1 7/8. And again, if you have the Craftology kit, this scoring is on the cut list that you would have received. So 3/8, 3/4, whoops, let's try to do it straight, 1 1/8, 1 1/2, 1 7/8. Turn it all the way around. 3/8, 3/4, 1 1/8, 1 1/2, 1 7/8. Okay, again, 3/8, 3/4, 1 1/8, 1 1/2, 1 7/8, all the way around, and repeat. 3/8, 3/4, 1 1/8, 1 1/2, 1 7/8. One last time on the last 2 pieces. 3/8, 3/4, 1 1/8, 1 1/2, 1 7/8. Turn it around. 3/8, 3/4, 1 1/8, 1 1/2, 1 7/8. You're going to be hearing that in your sleep tonight, I promise. Last one, 3/8, 3/4, 1 1/8, 1 1/2, 1 7/8. Turn it, and for the very last time, unless you make more than one of these, 3/8, 3/4, 1 1/8, 1 1/2, 1 7/8. All right, let's get that scoreboard out of here. And let's start with our smaller piece. So we're just going to go ahead and fold and burnish our score lines. When burnishing something like this, you want to go out from the middle. Okay, that helps keep that even. Which you definitely want on this project. Okay, so there's one. Okay. And then we're going to take one of the pieces, 6 1/4 by 5 3/4. You're going to fold and burnish. So we have our 1/4 inch gusset. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we are going to take this. We're going to attach this to the front. Okay. And then we will attach our accordion pieces to the back side. Okay. Okay. So I am literally lining this up to that score line and then just folding that over and burnishing it down. Okay. And then coming in here, like so. And this, you're going to have to kind of work it a little bit, but you want that first tab of your accordion all the way out flush with this edge. Okay, so like so. Okay. First tab on one of these is the tricky one. The second one's a lot easier because you've already kind of got the basic structure. Okay, so there's our first pocket. Now the matting for this, we are going to go ahead and mat this one as we go. So we've got, where did I put our base? Okay, so here's our base. So you just need to decide, if you're following my matting, if you want the little cookies and the mixers facing up, or if you want that pretty plaid facing up, because then each one of these pockets on each side, I've got one of these that's actually too wide that I need to cut down. You're going to flip it and do the opposite on the other side, or on this little top piece here. Okay, so I'm not going to mat these just yet, but it's just something to keep in mind. So we're going to go ahead and build all 6 of these, then we will mat, and then we will attach them together before we put the whole unit down in here. Okay, so I'm just going to set that one aside. We'll move on to our next one. And the assembly process on the base part of this pocket is going to be the same on all 6 of them. Okay, so you're going to do your accordion fold. On both ends. smaller piece. Come on. Okay. So again, we're just going to do our glue on that 1/2-inch tab. We're going to slide this down all the way to that score line. Make sure we're lined up side to side, that we're not too far one way or the other. And I'm just going to fold that tab over and burnish it down. Okay. Fold that up. And I'm just going to take my glue. This is where the little metal tip is so nice because we can just kind of fit it in there and burnish it down. Okay. And again. All right, so there we go. And we'll just keep repeating this until we have built all 6 pockets. Let's see, that one I didn't get it quite where I wanted it. And one more time. Okay. The center, which this one is 5.5 by 9.5, gets paired with the 7.25 by 5 3/4, like so. Okay. Okay. All right. There we go. now we've got all 6 of our pockets. Let's figure out how we want to do our matting. So we've got our front, we've got our 2 pieces that are too long that I need to cut down. And then we've got our gingerbread houses. Which again, I'm not sure. I think I'm actually going to go with the snowflakes on that. Okay, this is how I'm going to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and ink these. And I'm going to go ahead and mat the front of both of these. Okay, there's one. Okay, let me grab my trimmer because I know that one is too long. Okay, so these are going to be 5 5/8. I bet I probably had them just hanging out. So I wasn't paying attention. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and ink these as well. Or we do it that way. Nope. I feel like my first way. Even though we're not seeing a ton of the pattern on this one, it'll be fine. Let me go ahead and ink these. So I think these are all 1.5 inches high and then 5 5/8 wide. All right. So this, and if you wanted to use more of your paper and mat all the way down in here, you can, but it's really not necessary. This is just going to slip down in the top here. Okay. Oops. In here. Okay. Then we're about ready to get these all sandwiched together. So we can put it into our cover, the base. Okay, so how we're going to do this, you're going to start with your two tallest, okay? You want to do this, I don't know why my mat's bubbling up in the middle here. You want to do this on a nice flat surface because we're going to glue these together, okay? But you want to make sure that this bottom gusset is flat, okay? Like so, okay? So how I have been doing this is I'm lining these up side to side, pushing them down so that they're flat on my work surface, and then just squeezing. Okay, so there's our first two. And you may need to come back in here after you've got them attached and just kind of get some more glue in there and just kind of hold this bottom part together without smashing your gusset. So I'm going to just hold that for a second. Okay, we're going to take our next size. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing. Do one side, flip around, do the opposite side. We do the same thing again. We're lining it up side to side. We're pushing it down so that the whole thing sits flat, and then we're pinching together. Okay, then we're going to turn it over, get a little more glue in that bottom, and pinch again. Okay, next size on the opposite side. Can I see where we're headed here? What's really cool is if you do this right and you get that bottom nice and flat, This will actually stand all by itself. It doesn't need to go in the case or the cover or anything. You could make one of these just to keep on your desk to sort cut aparts. And I'll show you my little prototype one here in just a minute, because that's what I've kind of been using it for the last couple of weeks since I first designed this. My prototype I actually did out of Halloween paper. Okay. I'm going to hold that again. Kind of pinch that down. And then we'll put our last piece on. And again, stand it up. And at this point, especially if you're using artisan, this thing is going to be really sturdy that you can just push down on it from this angle and it's not going anywhere. What we're going to do again in our little gap here. And we'll get our last one attached, and then we can put this in our cover. Okay. So, there you have it. Same on both sides. Need to get my bottom on this last one secured. We'll just hold that for a second. And then this whole thing is going down on the center here. Okay. So if you've done it right, it should stand all on its own, just like that. Because this was my prototype before I decided it was way too big. And I've literally just had it standing on my desk, and I've been using it for keep track of pieces and parts for various things. So, not too bad. Okay, so then we are just going to get glue on each one of these, all across the bottom here. You're just going to center it up side to side. You're not going to have a whole lot of space on the sides, front and back. You will have about 1/4 of an inch on each one. This is where I'm saying this thing is good and sturdy, because you're going to just push down through the whole thing, and you're going to hold it for a good couple of minutes until that glue has stuck and had a chance to partially dry. And then you have your center of your recipe file all completed. And then we can work on the shaker, because shakers are awesome. Okay, carefully move that out of the way and set it aside to give it time to dry. If you want to use hot glue on that, you absolutely could. That would probably help it hold maybe a little bit better. Okay, so for our shaker, we've got our two, should be 5.5 inch lightweight chipboard pieces. What I have done, and why I never thought of this before, is beyond me. I don't know. Kim is a freaking genius. I don't know why I never thought of this. She literally was doing a shaker and she was recording one of the tutorials for one of the retreats that was going up in the group for those that had paid for retreats and were unable to attend because of the pandemic. And rather than having you measure in and then cut that out, she just took a scrap and cut it down to the size she wanted the opening to be. And then you're able to hold this down and cut around it. And I was like, oh my God, how have I never thought of this before? Holy crap. I mean, come on. All right, so that's what we're going to do. This is 5.5 by 5.5. We want our opening in the middle to be 4.5 by 4.5. So you're going to have a 1/2 inch all the way around in our frame. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I am going to set this on here, line it up. So I've got 1/2 inch. Line this up where it's 1/2 inch. Hold this down. And then I am just going to trace around my little 4.5 inch square that is my template for my opening. How much easier is that? Seriously, it was one of those things like, oh my God, how have I never thought of this before? All right, so then it's up to you if you want to use a knife, if you want to use your cutter. I am actually going to cut this out with my Cricut knife and a ruler. And where it's the lightweight chipboard, this will cut super, super easy. Biggest thing is holding it still so that you're cutting it even. And that's the nice thing about the lightweight chipboard is really with the knife, it's like one pass to get this to cut through. Whereas if you're using heavyweight, it'll take you a couple of tries. And that's fine. You can totally do it that way. Okay. So hang on to this. We may need it in a little bit. I haven't decided for sure. I know how I did my other one. Not sure we're doing it the same way. All right, so then we need to wrap this base piece. To wrap that, we need 7.5 by 7.5. I'm going to grab my scoreboard. Oops. Actually, I think we're done with this for right now. I can find my pen. Set that aside for right now. Take my 1 inch spacers, and we are going to put this piece down. I am going to go ahead and I'm not done with the glue. We are going to go ahead and glue this just because it'll be fine. Okay. All right. For the top, we have 8 by 8. we actually need 1.5 all the way around. So I do not have, of course, 2 1.5-inch spacers. So I'm going to use my 1.5 at the top. Actually, is it supposed to? Maybe it's not quite 1.5. I take that back. I'm not going to use the spacers. You're going to eyeball this and just center it up as best we can. So I think it's actually 1.25 by 1.25. And really, if you wanted to be super accurate, you could just come in here and lightly score this on 2 sides to give you your point to center that up on. So that's what I have done. You're going to go ahead and glue this down and then set this aside because the other one will have dried enough. We can wrap it. And then we can focus on this one. Okay. All right, we're going to set that aside for right now. We're going to bring our other one in. We're going to wrap this just like we would a cover piece. Okay. All right, so we're going to cut our corners. And again, you're going to go ahead and fold and make sure your corners are nice and neat. Do any extra mitering if you need to. Okay. And then we are going to go ahead and wrap this just like we do a cover piece. And it is a little bit different doing this with the lightweight chipboard, just because, you know, the chipboard wants to bend when you bend the cardstock, so that can be a little bit disconcerting. But after you've used the lightweight chipboard a few times, I really like it. There's a lot less bulk when you're using the lightweight, which is kind of nice. Okay. So we're going to wrap this. And then we're going to mat this. Okay. And it's up to you if you want to mat this, mat the side you're wrapping, or if you want to mat your clean side. It's up to you. This is going to stick on the front of our box. This side is, so it's really not going to matter. And I am just using this cute cookie paper. And this is cut to 5.5 by 5.5, which is the same as our shaker base. We're not leaving any kind of, you know, distinct border on this. It is going to go pretty much edge to edge on this. Okay. So we set that piece aside for right now. So what we're going to do is this. Before we go any further, you have a package of foam tape. We're going to go around our frame with the foam tape before we do anything else. Okay, so our foam tape is almost 1/2 inch wide. You want to go to this outside edge all the way around this frame. Okay. Okay. All right. I'm going to pull the backing off of this. And we're going to go again. Only this time, and again, you're still going to the outside edge, but you just want to reinforce where you had to cut your foam tape, where you have those spaces. Okay. The shaker fill we have for this, it's not as necessary to keep stuff in, but when you're using little stuff, it really helps keep everything inside the shaker where it's supposed to be. Like if you're using little tiny sequins or something like that. Okay. Now, on my prototype, and I'll show you my prototype really quickly, I did a cut apart that is on this piece here that is down flat. Okay, so I have 2 layers of foam tape, that cut apart is flat. What you can do, because this is the cut apart that I'm using for the center of our shaker, and I think I'm actually going to trim that down. Well, if I can find my right punch thing for it here. I don't know where that went. That's very weird. Okay, well, I was trying to find, I've got that little stub and I don't know where I put it. Oh my gosh. That's insane. What did I do with that? Oh, there it is. Aha! I think this is my one that actually is marked wrong. No, it's not. Okay. So I am actually going to trim this down just a tiny bit. And then I'm going to use that little stub punch on my Gingerbread. All right. You don't have to do this part if you don't want to. It's entirely up to you. All right. And you could absolutely, if you don't have this punch, because it is an older one, you absolutely could fussy cut that and it would be just fine. So we can do this down flat, or we can actually pop this up 1 layer and then do another layer of score tape around here. So I think that's how I'm going to do mine. I think that will be kind of cute. So I am going to just put a couple of pieces of foam tape on the back of this. And then I'm just going to center this up on here. Alright, so that stands up just a tiny bit. And then I'm going to add one more row of foam tape to get this to really stand up. But that is absolutely optional. You don't have to do 3 layers. However, you will need 2 layers just for your shaker elements to fit in there correctly, because they're not super thick, but they're a little bit bigger than you may have used in the past, especially if you haven't used any of the shaker fill from, I can't remember what brand it is. Anyway, it's on your package. You'll see it. All right. So now we've got that. Now is when we are going to go ahead and fold this up and around. Okay. And we're just going to kind of do it with our fingers. It doesn't have to be exact at this point. We just kind of want to get a feel for where the edges are of our frame. Okay. But before you do that, before we attach any of those, cut any of those, trim any of that stuff, what we're going to do is come in here with a knife. This doesn't have to be accurate. I'm weird. I like it to be a little bit closer to accurate. You're just going to go corner to corner with your knife and basically make a big X in the center of that frame. Okay? This we are going to wrap up and over. So we will need to kind of fold that and then trim these off. And the way we can do that, the way that seems to work best with that, is I'm going to come in here with my bone folder, and I'm just going to work that up against the chipboard. Get that crease nice and defined. Okay. And I'm going to pull my backing off. I'm going to fold this over and lay it down like so. Okay. All right. Then I'm just going to come along here with my scissors. Actually, I think I want my little ones because it'll be a little bit easier to get in here. And trim that off. You could do this beforehand. It's entirely up to you. But you want to get that trimmed off as close to that foam tape as you can. I'm clearly having an issue with this today. There we go. That's a little bit better. Okay. So there is your finished interior of your frame. And you're probably going, well, where's the acetate going? The acetate is going to go on top of here, and then it gets matted over the top. So we can get this completely assembled, get it down on our book, and then get our shaker fill in there before we put the acetate on, or we can get this completely assembled with the acetate and everything and then put it on our book, which is what we're going to do, but you could do it either way. Okay. So now this is going to come up and over. And we're going to kind of just, we don't want to stick it down yet, but we do want to get it up and kind of creased where it kind of crosses over. Because we're essentially going to wrap this very much like we wrap our covers. Because what it's going to do is going to give us a nice finished edge all around the outside of this shaker. Okay, so wherever my other scissors went, they're buried. All right, so I'm going to cut across here. You want to stay out away from that corner, which is why you're kind of trying to fold that a little bit, kind of see, you know, where everything kind of intersects. Okay. And then before we wrap that all the way around, this piece is going to go down on here. This is going to wrap to the back of this, and then we'll have our finished shaker frame. Okay. Because this is foam, I am going to take my 3/8" score tape, and I'm going to go around the top of this foam layer. Okay. Okay. And then we're going to line this up. And drop it down. Okay. So there you go. There's your center. And really, if you wanted to wait to center that cut apart up after you've got this part of it assembled, you absolutely could do that. Okay. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to take my 1/4" score tape around my outside edge here, just to help it grab when we put it down. Okay. And then I am going to get some glue in here, which it's clearly not going to stick wherever it attaches to the foam tape, and that's fine. And we're just going to come up and over. Okay. Opposite side. Okay, so then on these corners, what we're going to do is we are just going to use our bone folder, and we are going to push those in and down. Okay, so that then when this folds over, you have a mostly clean corner. This one got a little bit out of control, but that's okay. And of course it's the top. We're going to push that in and over. And down. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing over here. He must have his friend upstairs because I'm hearing all sorts of banging and my husband yelling. So, who knows what they're doing. They're probably doing the same thing I got mad at them for the other day, which was throwing the magnetiles. They have invented this weird little game where they build ships with the magnetiles and then they blow each other up. Mostly because I won't let them play Electronic Battleship because it drives me insane. Okay. And there is your shaker. With your nice clean edges. No, you're not. Go upstairs. Nice clean edges. And this will all sit on the front of our recipe organizer. I'm doing too many things at once today. And will help with the ribbon to hold that all closed. So now we're going to take our template piece again as soon as I figure out what I did with it. If you can't find that, you've got your piece you cut out at the center of the actual thing, which I think I'm actually going to use that one. Flip it over to the back side. And we're going to center this up again. I'm thinking I did something differently here. I may have actually last time put this down and then traced where the actual thing sat. I think is what I did. Okay, so that would be the best thing to do, but since that's not what actually ended up happening, and that's fine, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit this on here, like so, and I'm going to find somewhere I have repositionable stuff. Actually, it shouldn't matter because we're going to trim that out anyway, so it's not going to matter. Okay. Alright, so I've just got a glue dot here. I'm going to line this up where it's going to go on here. Aha, there we go. And since that is where the actual line is going to be, I'm just going to leave it there, and I'm going to cut this middle out. All right. Okay. All right. So it's not exactly the way I would have preferred it, but that's okay. I'm literally not giving this to anybody. It's staying here, so it's really not going to matter. If it's not totally exact, which it's not. So I'm just going to turn it till I find the side that looks the best, and that's what we're going to go with. Okay, we're going to go right there. So now to find my acetate that I literally just had. There it is. Okay, so your acetate is 5.5 by 5.5. You may want to trim this down just a hair if you want to. You can. If not, it's fine. We are going to go around this with 1/4-inch score tape. You want to go right to the outside edge. Okay. And then we are going to put this right on top of it. Okay. So we're going to line this up right to that edge. Oh yeah, I got that really wonky, didn't I? Oh well, it's okay. All right, now we're going to flip it over. Get our score tape on here again. And then we're going to go ahead and check how I'm putting this down one more time. Just find the least weird side, because this is typical. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to turn that out that way. You take your little shaker mix, and we're going to put that inside. You can use as much or as little of it as you want. Is this tape shut? It is. So let's cut that before I make a gigantic mess by like yanking it open and having shaker stuff go everywhere. Because y'all know I'll do it. Aha. Okay, I'm not going to open it all the way. I'm just going to open it like so. And sprinkle in what I think we need. And I think that's enough. And I'm going to save the rest of this for a card or something. Okay. Okay. And then put that down right here on top. And there you go. There's your shaker. Of course, I always end up with a couple pieces that go nuts on me and don't want to sit the way they're supposed to. There's your shaker. So now, bring this in. And this is going to go centered up about right here. It's actually going to go almost to the bottom on the front. But what we're going to do is pop this up, and you can use your foam tape or you can use your little chipboard piece and cut this into several little squares and stack them up. Or if you're like me and you've got 1,001 chipboard scraps, we're going to do it that way. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to take a couple of random scraps of chipboard. I am going to glue these together. I'm going to glue them to the back here, and then that's going to go on here. They don't need to match exactly. Ultimately, it's not going to matter at all because nobody's going to see it. But this way, you're not going to have your ribbon, when it goes around this, it's not going to stick. If you use your foam tape, it might stick. You might want to layer it up and then use your little powder tool, if you've got it, on like the sides of the foam tape so that they don't stick, so that your ribbon doesn't stick. And I mean, it may not be a big deal. Yours may not be like super sticky where that's an issue, but it's just a thought, something to consider. So, got that. And I am literally just going to turn this over, center it right to left, put it about 1/4 of an inch from the bottom, and press it down. Got something on my acetate there. That's okay. Okay, so we're going to let that sit for just a second. I am going to grab my ribbon. Let's see how much ribbon we've got. We've got quite a bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to attach our ribbon. We're going to center it up on this little flap. We're going to attach it down. Then we're going to mat over it. And then I've got a mat that actually goes on the back side. Actually, I may have attached it. Let me look. I'm not sure where I attached it on my original. Hold on one second. Oh, that's what I did. Okay. I actually did something a little bit differently, and I didn't realize that that's what I had done. It's okay. We'll make it work. Okay, so we're going to attach this to the front. Going to mat over it. And then we just need enough that this is going to come down and around one time. Okay? We'll leave a little bit of a tail, not much. But I'm going to take my I think I was doing the polka dots on this one. And where's my quarter rounder? There it is. I think that's what I was going to do. Okay, so I've got my 3/8 score tape. We're just going to put a couple of pieces on here in the middle. And then get our backing off. Okay. Put that down. I could actually do it that way, couldn't I? No, I don't want to do that. Nope, we're going to do dots. Where's my ink? I forgot to ink that, didn't I? Of course I did. That's okay though. It's not gonna matter. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and glue this down. And if you have other ribbon you would prefer to use that's smaller or something, by all means, go right ahead. Okay. We'll get our one on the other side. Oops, let's turn it the right way, that'd help, huh? We're gonna mount this one on this side. All right, so now that should be dry. You want to do it about right there so that if this was completely full and expanded out, and we're going to cut it about right here. So that's going to leave you with about 18 inches, well, roughly 18 inches of the red and black checked ribbon. And then all I'm going to do with this is fold it in half. And just, you know, kind of give it that little, I don't know what you even call that. I probably know and I'm just drawing a blank, but you know how that goes. Okay. I think it's not cooperating today. You can see that just slides in behind there when you're not completely challenged like I am. I think I cut this too short, but that's okay. All right, so there we go. There is our recipe holder. I can do a little bit of decorating. When it's opened up, it stands up just like that, so you can get into your recipes. And there you have it. I'm going to do a little bit of decorating and call it good. Thanks for watching. Of course, if you make this, whether or not you have the Craftology box, please share it on Scrapbookers of Country Craft Creations and also on my page, Scrapping Under the Influence, because I would love to see what you guys have done with my design. And thanks for watching.